Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 74, Prioritizing All the Things.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Small Biz Life. We're very excited to have you with us today. Why are you laughing?
Just my typical action-packed thing came to mind, and that amuses me.
That it's another action-packed episode?
Another action-packed episode of Small Biz Life.
Okay, sure. So if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for being with us again this week. We're super excited that you're here. And if you're a new listener, thanks for checking us out. We're excited to have you here. And we hope that while you're listening, I'd love for you to pick up your phone right now and hit that subscribe button in whatever app you are listening to us in.
Maybe you've found us a few times. Maybe this is your first time, but either way, make sure you're subscribed. It will save you some valuable time in your life so you don't need to find us again. We'll just show up magically on your phone.
That's right. And you'll be like, oh, look, it's Small Biz Life.
Woo.
Right? So, and our episodes, we release a new episode every week for the show. So by hitting the subscribe button, you will get those episodes automatically.
And pro tip, if you're trying to get caught up, you can listen to us at 1.5 play speed, and Kristin will sound like Wendy Testaberger from South Park.
I do, actually. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's always funny when we edit the episodes, right? It's like another episode of South Park, and we try to, we understand that,
with less cussing.
Well, yeah, with less cussing. So, we try to have a lot of fun on this show while we're going through important topics, for your small business.
Yeah, because, when you're in the struggle of small business, it's all serious. Everything is vital. Everything's a priority. It's sort of like when you work for a corporation and you get like 800 emails a day and they all have the priority thing clicked on them.
Yeah, that's one thing that I find is that my college students love that. Like, this email is a high priority, and everything is a high priority. And you probably feel that way in your small business.
Yeah.
In January, we went through task creation in Small Biz HQ, which, if you're not a member of Small Biz HQ, you can check it out at smallbizlife.com/HQ. It's our monthly membership site. And we spent a lot of time going over different ways to manage your tasks. And I think that when you start going through that process, it becomes really overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God, there's so much to do.
Yeah. And as sort of along the lines of task, but not directly, I think, getting into this idea of priorities, the first thing that you have to do when you're generating your priorities is know where you're going in life. And if you've not had a chance to do the free Dreamcatcher assessment, go to smallbizlife.com/dreambig, and it will get you started, because that's really, it's going to be one of the key indicators of, what's my priority?
Right. And the cool thing with that is that, we look at 6 areas of your life, not just your business.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of times when we are generating those lists of tasks or those things we want to do, or even, traditional goal setting, I think a lot of times we get hyper focused on one area.
In the moment of time.
Right. So I think that when you're looking at the things that you need to do, and I know we've said this before on the show, generating income should be your top priority for your business.
Yeah. There should be time every week, maybe every day, depending on how new your business is, where you're focused in on working and refining your sales funnels. I know come March, that will be a big part of my job. And there's time allotted every day to work to improve the sales funnels, because even in the other areas of the life, a lot of times revenue is a way to help give you the time for your kids, to help control and reduce the risk of losing your small business, and really sales and content delivery or product delivery or service delivery. Those are the main functions of businesses.
Right. And I think a lot of times, we get buried in the weeds of, I've got to get Facebook going. I've got to get my newsletter going. I've got to get my website up. I've got to get all these things. And I think, when we talk about sales funnels, we're not just talking about online sales funnels. Mm-hmm. We're also talking about, your traditional offline sales funnels.
Yeah, hopefully you will meet someone who's actually vaguely interested in what you're doing as well in real life. And a lot of times when you have a personal connection with people, it should become easier because you have that person who you can help right in front of you.
Right. So, the term sales funnel, I think a lot of people think that started in the online realm. And it actually didn't. It started, way back before the internet. Companies had sales funnels. And when you're thinking about, what are your priorities, you've got to be thinking about, how do I meet people who are going to engage with me, however that is, I can then turn into customers.
Yeah.
And so this is both an online and an offline strategy. And so, if you're just starting out, your priority has to be meeting as many people as possible, whether that's online or offline. And offline is much easier.
Yeah.
Because you're not fighting Facebook algorithms, you're not fighting for shares. You're looking for places where you can network with people and then build relationships with them so that you can follow up and turn them into customers.
Well, especially too early on in your business when you're looking for those people who willing to put their picture up with a referral for you on your website. People you've met are much more apt to do that for you because they know you, they've met you. When people don't engage with your personality, they don't get to like you, they don't get to interact with you, which is why I think also when you're in the online space, it's not strictly about SEO. SEO is important and you do want to SEO the best you can, but ultimately it's about building community and caring about the people who you're working with on or offline and treating them as best as you can because then you build relationships with them. And then whether it's, a Vanderchuck thank you economy or whatever you want to call it, you have much stronger relationships on and offline. And really, what book were you reading? I forget, because you were telling me this. I can't remember the name of the book right now, where they said 94% of basically people being linked up, being introduced to an idea happens offline. Only about 6% happens online. I don't know if it was Contagion or...
I think that was Contagious.
Yeah. Contagion, yeah.
Which I'll link...
Hopefully a product marketing is contagious, but...
Yeah, which I will... I'll link to The Thank You Economy by Gary Vee, and I'll link to Contagious. Because I think that they're both really good books. I'm reading both of them at the same time. When you're trying to develop those relationships with people, Gary's is more on the social media side of things, and Contagious, who I can't remember the author at this moment.
It's more about generally.
Right. Why do things,
the psychology of it.
Right. Exactly. So, they're both really interesting books. And it's actually funny reading Gary Vee's book because it was written in 2011. And so seeing his predictions come to light.
Yeah, and how timeless social media strategies should be.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not about the platform you're on. It's about how you're utilizing the platform.
Right. So, I think if you're first starting out or you're struggling to grow your business, I think that you need to spend some time investing in your local community. A lot of people, they're like, no, I'm an online business. I'm national.
Good.
Which is awesome. But, spending some time getting into your local community, right? And you probably already know people in your
Mhm.
community, but you're not leveraging those
Yeah.
relationships.
And really the thing to keep in mind is, you're trying to scale out your business. And, if you're fans of ours, you realize we are a bit more conservative. We're not about taking on maximum debt to maximize growth or getting people to invest in you to grow your business at a maximum rate. And that's what your concern is until you can sell it off or do something else. Not a sort of classic startup type of ideology that we have. We have a way about building a lifestyle which involves small business, and really it doesn't even have to. You could probably take some of our advice and take it to the workplace, but that's just not really the way we're delivering it. A lot of it could be used there as well too. But the thing is, it's the people in your life, that help generate momentum. And once you have momentum, I'm going to say that again. Once you have momentum, it will encourage you and excite you to move faster, because marketing should not disgust you. Marketing should excite you. Oh my goodness, I get to interact with other people today. And some of them I'm going to end up working with. Some of them are going to be part of my community. Some of them might not like me, but you know what? I'm excited at the prospect.
Right. And I think, people see where we are now, right? And that I have a national CPA firm and a national business consulting firm. But that only started happening in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I built my accounting firm locally.
Yeah.
And, if you don't know our story, I started my firm 10 years ago. It was back in 2007, the beginning of 2007. And I was going through chemo. I was told that I could not go back to working the job that I was working because it was too stressful. And so we didn't have a lot of money. We had a ton of debt, didn't have a lot of money.
I'd actually started working full time for another employer again for the benefit side of it, but I lost revenue by doing that.
Right. So, so you figure, so I'm 27 years old, I'm going through chemo, so I have no hair, and, and I don't have money for advertising. And that's traditionally what a lot of CPAs did, is during tax season, they'd put ads all over the place, and they drive clients that way.
Sorry, I'm thinking of people on the side of the road in strange Statue of Liberty costumes.
Statue of Liberty costumes, people flipping signs, and I didn't, we didn't have the money to open an office space.
No.
So, so I'm sitting there, I've got my computer, I've got my software, and I need to go get clients. So, what I did is I started networking at Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is great, even if your target market is not other businesses, because it's a great way for you to meet people, to, build relationships, to ask for help. And I think that that's one thing that we are really terrible at as small business owners, is that we are not asking for even our local networks to help us.
Yeah. And they don't even need to be in the same line of work, but it's like, all of these chambers typically have insurance guys and real estate guys, typically, at least, usually some lawyers, people who've been successful in the community for 30, 40 years. And they might not know your business, but they know the community better than anyone. They know the fears of people. They know how they need help, what they're asking for help. And even like Kristin said, if you're not a business to business kind of business, business owners also have lives. They might be a customer. So maybe you sell clothing, and guess what? Business owners buy clothing too.
No.
Not me, but other ones.
Yeah, usually you have clothes bestowed on you.
Forced down my throat by the man.
It's the patriarchy.
It's the patriarchy.
That's
yes.
right. So, if that's where you are and you're struggling with, all of the technology that goes into online business, go to some chamber events. And the thing I would recommend is that you research the chambers around you, kind of look and see who are the members, are they somebody that, are they people that are either my market or could help connect me to my market? Because I think a lot of times what we do with chambers is we go to a meeting or two and we go, oh, this isn't working. I haven't sold anything yet. And we stop. And, just like online business, you're building relationships, right? That's the whole point of this. So you can't, find a committee that you're interested in, go volunteer for the golf tournament, figure out an event that you might want to sit on a committee for.
And if you don't have a strong chamber in town, look to your town government or county government, depending on where you live. Youth commissions, environmental boards. They have 10,000 things that, can help make your community better at the same time. Now, obviously, when you're at these commission meetings, you're not shoving your business down their throats and you're not trying to sell yourself, but you're building human being relationships, and it leads to conversations before and after meetings. And where you're not using this to sell, you're using this to build credibility. And some communities are like, if you move out to where we are and you think you're going to have a successful business in the town of Windsor, Connecticut, without having a community presence, you better have lots of money for marketing, because especially the people who've lived there their whole lives, they know this person, they know that person. Word of mouth is still the best seller.
Yep.
Even in our podcast. And we've done it on both of our podcasts for different amounts of time, where we've sat there and pleaded with people to go tell 2 people who could benefit from the show. And feel free to do this again today.
Yeah, we've kind of gotten out of the habit of doing that.
Yeah, because we jump around sometimes with the things that we're trying to tell people and get people to do. We're so excited to help people dream at this point. We want them to go do that. But before that, for a while, we were pushing this idea of just tell 2 people about the podcast. If they don't know how to do it, show them on their phone, show them on their computer how to do that. The biggest periods of growth come from the times we do that, where we ask people to interact with human beings. Because you're right. If you think you're going to sit there, throw up a post or 2 on social media every week, and you think you're going to have a huge following, you're not.
Right. So, I think, so that's piece 1, right? That if it's the top end of your funnel that you're having trouble with, right? It's building those connections with people, then go out and do some footwork.
I mean, just think about conversely. How often do you get unsolicited phone calls? How often do those work? Maybe if they catch you at the exact moment you look like, geez, man, I really need to get some landscaping work done. And someone calls you up and says, hey, we're doing some landscaping. You want to do it? Yeah. Come over, give us an estimate. But most of the time it's like, click, hang up.
Right. So, that's number 1 priority, right? Is creating relationships with people, because eventually you're going to get to the point in your business. And this is where I am with the offline side of the business right now, is I have a waiting list for tax season. So I have more people that want my services than I can actually provide. Yep. That is a really cool place to be with your business.
Yeah, because we look at the amount of revenue that we want to pull in from that business, and we sit there and go, okay, this is how much time that it's going to take. And really, we're looking at more from a time standpoint than a revenue standpoint. And then we can sit there and go, okay, these are the clients. And then Kristin's pretty good when she gets a new client in to go, well, this is really 3 clients because they have a lot of stuff. It's really complicated, or it's not complicated. It won't take me very long. But she can make that call. But then because of that, she has essentially a waiting list.
And so, but that didn't happen overnight. And I think a lot of times we get impatient and we want this to happen tomorrow. And that's not, it took me probably 7 or 8 years of building relationships, meeting new people to get to that point where I'm not doing all the networking that I used to do. But now I'm actually looking at some new groups that I can start networking with in order to build the online side of the business. Yeah. So, I'm looking at younger professionals groups where, I still fit into that age category, right? Because most of them are like under 40. And looking for entrepreneurs who are more tech savvy, who are more willing to invest in online courses or get involved with listening to podcasts. Yeah. So that's kind of where we are right now, is we're doing that kind of networking instead.
And here's sort of Jeffrey's pro tip of the day for you B2B people. If you're looking for referrals, if you're looking to build up your revenue, you're a newer business to business sort of product delivery, that's where you want to grow. Target professionals who already target other businesses. Go to your accountants, go to your lawyers, go to your insurance agents. These guys have relationships. If you deliver them a high quality product, and then the people who they refer to you, if you deliver them the exact same product at the exact same quality, they're going to become. That's a great way to build a relationship with people who get in front of your target audience. Who Kristin gets asked, "I need a new printer." She's an accountant, and now she is a tech savvy accountant, and her clients do get that. But it seems like a strange question to ask an accountant. But when business people, especially small business people, have relationships with other small business people that they trust, they ask them these questions. And your service might be on that list. Build up rapport with people in industries who deliver products and services to other small businesses.
Right. And even if, let's say that you are a B2C business and, let's say you make like apparel for babies. If you've networked with somebody, right, and you know that they're having a baby, send them a piece of your apparel.
Yeah.
Congratulations, here's a gift from me, because that will, first of all, you're getting clothes on a baby, right? For somebody who does networking and probably knows a lot of people. And that can really help grow your business.
And trust me too, it's like when you get gifts from people you don't expect. I know this person and they just sent me something. That sticks in the mind. There's a local realtor out here who's brilliant at this. And occasionally when people are asking about realtors to their accountant, my wife, she will recommend this guy. And I remember the first time we did, probably the first couple times because we didn't remember, it took a couple times for it to really stick in was, wait, we're getting a gift card from, why is he sending us a gift card? Oh, wait. Oh, we referred him a client. And so he's like sending a gift card for us to go out to eat. And
no, it's like it was a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card.
Is that
That's
what it was?
all it was.
Okay.
But that totally stuck with me that like, wow, that is such an amazing level of customer service.
So even when he didn't have something he could do for her related, he came up with a $5 thing. And for the potential money he can make off of his deals, it's a no-brainer. Because he's trying to build up the relationship that he goes first to her mind. And I'm guessing he's always one of the top two people who come to your mind when you think of realtors, if not the only one.
Yeah, he's the top two. Yep. But so I know it kind of feels like we're veering off, but I think that is the most important thing that you need to be doing every single week. Okay. Whether you're, engaging in physical networking or you're doing online networking. And the thing with online networking is that you can't just drop in a post and walk away. Most of the online networking that I do and the most effective thing that we've done to drive new likes to our page is I make sure my Facebook profile, it says, Small Biz Life, right, as one of my jobs. And it links to our Facebook page when you click on Small Biz Life. I will go help people. I will answer business questions in big groups. And then I will find people will click on my profile. And do not make your profile completely locked down as a business owner. Because if people can't find their way to your business from your profile, you are doing yourself great disservice.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will click on your name and go, oh, Small Biz Life, what's that? Click. Oh, that's a cool page. I'm going to like that page. So, that's a way, I think that's a much more effective use of your time than creating a post, dropping it in 25 different groups, and then, hightailing it off.
Especially too, it's like I've actually responded sometimes when people put stuff in these groups And if you're in multiple groups together, you'll see like slam, like, they post in 15 different groups in 5 minutes until they get temporarily banned by Facebook. And then what happens is, if the article is actually compelling and you go look at it and then you respond to their thing, sometimes they don't even go back and pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. It's like, you just got hit cross spammed by them accidentally. And then you actually respond to, because you're like, oh, this sounds really cool. This sounds awesome. And they don't take the time to follow up the people who are talking to them in the 30,000 posts that they just threw out on Facebook in the last 20 minutes.
Right.
And I see people do this with their products, with their books, with their services. And they'll just go in and they bomb it out everywhere. And they a lot of times don't even interact with people who are interacting with them. The interaction is more important than the posting.
Right. And, it's kind of like, what Jeff said about cold calling, right? Is that when you are spending, so much time just dropping stuff online and you're not building those relationships, essentially you're cold calling people, right? So they might go, oh, that's kind of neat. And if you don't respond back and you don't engage with them, they're going to drop off.
Yeah.
The next time they see your thing, they're going to go, oh, well, they're just, spamming the internet again. So you got to be really careful with that piece. Okay, so, the top level of the funnel, the networking piece, the meeting people and bringing them into your circle, that's top priority. Okay, if you're trying to grow your revenue, that's top priority. Okay, so, the next piece, when you're looking at all of the tasks, okay, the next piece is actually, once you've made the connections, you're trying to build the relationships. So you've got to determine how are you going to do that. You cannot do it all. Okay. You can't write 4 blog posts a week and do a podcast and do a Periscope. You cannot do all of it. So you've got to determine what is the most effective way for me to build relationships with people and focus on that. This month in Small Biz HQ, we've been talking a lot about like administrative stuff and automation. Next week, we're going to be talking a lot about how to automate your social media and how to automate your email list and, how to make sure there's stuff going out, all the time.
Spend time getting good at what you're doing, because think about this, it's interacting with people online, once again, is not that different than real life. You are putting your best foot forward, which is why everyone who's successful says you give away your best stuff. You give away so much that they're so excited to buy stuff from you because they want to see what more they're going to get if they give you actually money for it. But, you're putting your best foot forward in the way you interact with people, in the way you're dealing with them, the way you're supporting them. And it's not always business related. Sometimes if you're in these groups and someone's complaining that there's some horrible thing happening in their life, support the people.
Right.
And yeah, that might not get you any likes at that moment. But the thing is, you're building relationships, you're building reputation. The same way online is the same way you do it. The only benefit of doing it online is you potentially have you have an in number of people who might get the positive feeling from you when you are good to someone online. Don't tell them to call you or IM you, because you'll answer their question and then try and sell them something. Answer their question. And when you're interacting with them, try and get them to the point where they want to contact you for more. Don't hold it in. Don't hold back, because it doesn't work online and it doesn't work in real life. If you go into a customer's office and they start asking you about how you're going to help their business, and you kind of hold back and like, well, why don't you call me and, hey, fill out this form for me and give me $30 and I'll give you my estimate, doesn't work.
Right. And I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're networking online or they're trying to develop relationships online. I see financial professionals do this a lot. Somebody will give out a scenario and say, this is the issue I have. And they're they're detailed, right? Like they're giving you a lot of information. Yeah. And what I see professionals do is they will say, oh, well, send me a PM and I'll help you. Or, send me an email and I'll help you.
Yeah.
If I have enough information, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually go in and start asking questions if, I need more information or I think that there's something that they're missing. And I will answer their question right there on the thread.
Because think about it too. You might help 3 or 4 people by answering that question. Maybe 30 or 70 people, however many people are interacting with that thread will at least see you helping that person.
Right. And so instead of getting one person that you're connecting with, maybe you're getting 20.
And I'm always concerned, and this is a huge priority of mine, is whenever I'm interacting online, I'm always doing it as in a person-to-person conversation because I'm trying to develop relationships. And hopefully I get more than one person on the other end, but even if I don't, at that moment, at least I got to interact with that one person.
Right. So, I think if you're thinking about, we have a whole course on time management. And I think that this is really key because when you're going through and, the majority of your time should be spent providing your product or service. Okay. And if you're a service-based business, clearly you're going to be spending more time on that side of your business, actually providing the quality service that people need.
Yep.
Once you determine how much time you have left over, that for your growth and your marketing and your sales, that's where you've got to look to say, okay, if let's say you've got, after you provide your product or service, you've got 15 hours a week carved out for growth, right? And that is your marketing, your content, your networking. Okay, so let's say you've got 15 hours. What I would probably do in those 15 hours, and mind you, like you probably, on your task list, you probably got, that you need to revamp your website, that you need to send out 14 emails a week. Don't do that. You've got to write a blog post. You've got to, draft some social media posts. So here's the thing. You need to simplify down. You need to look at how can I develop a piece of content and then recycle that content. And, if you're a really slow writer, and I know like some people, it takes them a really long time to draft a blog post, don't do a blog post, do a video on your phone instead. If you can, prop up your phone, get one of those, we've got a little tripod for the table.
I'm holding it up in front of my microphone right now so you guys can hear it.
I'll put a link in the show notes. And just put your phone on the table and hit the record button. If, Facebook Live scares you right now, you don't have to do it live.
Record it and upload it.
Right. You can use your laptop. I've done that before where I've just used my laptop to record the video. Do video instead. Do like a 10-minute tips video, and do that once a week. That's a perfectly good way to do content. And then you can embed it in a blog post, do a little blurb about what you talked about and, throw it out there and use that. And then you can put it up on YouTube, right? If you put it up on YouTube, embed it in your blog post, there's your blog post for the week.
You got something like Convert Player and voila, you have a email opt-in for every video you make too. Exactly.
So, everybody thinks like I've got to do blog posts and I've got to do video and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And, we don't write blog posts. We do show notes for the show. Sometimes they're
blog post-ish.
Yeah, sometimes they're blog post-ish. It really depends on how we're feeling that week. But our content that we're putting out there is the podcast. Don't think that you've got to have 17 different types of content. I love things like Meet Edgar. I love, there's another one that we're looking at right now that's called Recur Post, which works like Edgar. And the cool thing with Recur Post, and I'll put a link in the show notes, you can attach 3 social media accounts to it for free. So if it's something that you kind of want to try out, like that evergreen content strategy we've talked about before, but I think a lot of people are spending too much time generating content, and they're not spending enough time building relationships so that people actually find the content.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people out there that are really frustrated because, they're going into their websites and they're seeing that 20 people read last week's post. And I think it's because you're not building relationships.
And let's be honest, at this point, video is probably the easiest way to get people to interact with content, and then podcasting, and then blog posts to read.
Yeah.
And even if they find you, they might never go back to your website again unprompted. So the thing is, the traditional idea of having a blog, which you spend very little money in and it becomes really popular, is exceptionally difficult today. There's too much noise out there. People typically prefer video. They typically prefer listening over reading via their phones.
Right. Go back to our episode on YouTube Basics, where we talk about the types of videos that do really well. If you are in a service industry, where you are, in computer repair, HVAC, financial services, get out of debt, whatever you're doing, you should be doing video because people need to be able to trust you, show them basic how-tos, and don't make a series of sales videos. And don't put out, that all that you're putting out are sales videos. Teach people things so that they can build up trust with you.
And there's no problem throwing in a little sales at the end, but the primary function of outreach is to build relationships.
Right. So I think, when I look at people's schedules and I say, show me where your business building time is. It's not there. Or, well, I've got an hour a week where I go onto social media and I talk to people. Or, well, I'm spending 20 hours a week writing blog posts and, doing video and recording podcasts and emailing out daily tips to my email list. And simplify, automate.
And when you get good and you have the process down really well for doing however you're outreaching, whether it's blogging or podcasting or video editing, once you have it down and the process becomes less of a burden and you're seeing that time shrink and you probably can't get it down anymore and you need more outreach, then take that content you've written and say, how can I do a podcast about this? How can I do a video about this? But you work off of the same thing every week and start delivering it in multiple platforms. But just wrap one platform at a time, get it down, get it nailed. Because like she said, if you're using half your work week to create content, to do outreach, you're never going to get sales.
Right, because the problem is you're not doing the outreach part.
And you're not going to actually get people to use the content either.
Right.
I guess you could, do a paid strategy all the time and just, pay for marketing and you might build up some that way. But the thing is, human interaction, it's just the same. Building community online is the same as building it in real life. The advantage is more people can see you doing it than the person you're interacting with.
Right. And I think a lot of people are getting bogged down with their websites. That I'm not happy with my website. I don't like my website. I'm not using my website, or I'm not going to drive traffic there until it's perfect. Okay. So, let's talk about some things that you can do to kind of, avoid your homepage, I guess. So if your strategy is to build an email list because, that's going to be your main sales strategy and you've got something, you could have an online course through Udemy or through Teachable or through Kajabi or whatever you're using, even something like WooCommerce. Okay. You can put up a landing page and you're giving something away for free, a PDF, better this in 7 days, whatever it is you're doing. And all you need is a description of what you're going to give them for free and a box for them to sign up.
Think about this, people. All you people who are obsessed with your website and it looking perfect, and it's not perfect, it's not pretty enough, get over it. Because the two most used websites from the 90s through today, and still today, the same ones since the late 90s are still the most popular sites today. Google and Drudge Report.
Mm-hmm.
They're both ugly sites that you would look at and laugh at and think a 30-year-old made them. Not necessarily what you get back when you Google something, but the actual page itself, there's nothing there. You go to Drudge, it's freaking links.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because like states are now starting, like Connecticut Capitol Report, use the Drudge Report format, in order to deliver its news.
The two most successful websites aren't pretty. They deliver something of value to the people who go to them. The content is more important than the look. Yes, you want it mobile friendly. Yes, you want people to be able to find stuff. Once those two things are achieved, you can add on and slowly keep building the site after that, but nothing else matters.
All right, but so that's the thing, right? So if people go to your homepage, and they land on your opt-in, okay? So that's all you've got is you just have, a page that says, this is what I'll give you for free.
Click here.
Put in your name and email, okay? And that's really, that's like...
That's it.
I know people...
And a thank you page.
And a thank you page. I know, and you can do that with Thrive themes, okay? I know people, and before we started Small Biz Life,
Break Away From Your Desk,
we had a site called Break Away From Your Desk, and I went onto social media and I said, hey, if you sign up for this, I am going to send you tax tips and business tips, and, and we had over 100 people sign up the first week, just through me going to my social media and saying, hey, we're going to do this.
And part of that was because she had relationships in a lot of the groups that she did already, but...
Right. But it was that relationship building that I had done. And so, how many of you would love to get, 100 extra people on your site, on your email list? It doesn't have to be complicated. If you look at Accounting in Focus, I hate how Accounting in Focus looks right now. Okay. It is a black and white site. I still love the logo though. I love the little gnome, right? That's what I wanted with the little magnifying glass. It's not a pretty site. We get 80 to 100,000 unique visitors every month on that site. And it's hideous. It's the content that's good.
Yeah.
And so, start with that. Now, okay, if you've got products to sell, what I would do is I would be, let's say that you're selling, let's go back to baby t-shirts. Okay. Let's say you're selling baby t-shirts. When you come up with a new design for the baby t-shirt, put it up in your social media and then share it from your page to, so from your business page, share it on your personal page, okay, on your wall. If you have a spouse, have your spouse share it on their personal page. Try to get some traction with it.
And even like...
But here's the thing. Have the link just go to that product page. Because what most people are going to do is they're going to look at the page for that product and they're going to buy or not buy. Okay. And then, if you've got good software, it'll try to upsell them. But even if your homepage is horrible, you can still send them to the shopping cart.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. And even, hey, if you don't have a shopping cart set up, but you're selling something,
you could be in your Etsy store or whatever.
Right. Post to social media. Put it up in an Etsy store. Do something so that you can start selling. But I see so many people that are like stuck because there are components of their website that aren't working or don't look the way they want. And they're just stuck.
So it starts with simplification. Simplify it down. Get good at the one thing. Layer in the things that you think will make it better. I remember I had Gardul.com. I owned it for 10 years before I posted one thing on it. And the thing that made me freeze up and get stuck was I had this giant fantasy world and I wanted it all to be there and I wanted to push a button.
Oh my God, I remember that.
So all of a sudden, all of these cultures would appear. Everything I would ever do would appear. All I had to do was translate it from notebooks and text files into web content. And you know what? Not only in those 10 years did I not ever get it all done, I did almost none of it because it was such a daunting task. I don't need the whole world to exist online at once. So how about as I'm doing stories, I start sharing parts of my world that are involved in the stories. And I rethought it in a way, I simplified it in a way to where I could get past that fear in my brain that I needed everything up there at once. It needed to be perfect at once. And you know what? It's not going to ever be perfect.
Right.
And the more things you add into it, the more widgets that go into it, the more complicated it becomes, the more likely something will break in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why Drudge Report and Google work so well. They do the thing they're supposed to do really well.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, maybe, you have an idea for a video course and the prospect of, getting everything set up, is daunting and, trying to pay for something like Kajabi, is outside your price point right now. Subscribe to Vimeo, put your, videos up on Vimeo and email the links out to people.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There's your course.
Put them unlisted on YouTube.
Yep. And send people the link.
It won't be perfect. And yes, some people might be able to cheat and share it out. But the thing is, it probably won't happen as much as you think it will. Mm-hmm. And if that's all you can afford to start off with, if that's all you can do, it's better to have something up there. You can iterate and improve the technology use. And you know what? You should be doing that all of the time, no matter where you are, if you're online.
Right.
Or you have a store, the technology in your store that controls the store should be improving all the time. You should be layering it. You get what you need to get started. Once you have what you need to get started, you can grow.
Right. And I mean, that's the, worst case scenario, if you're selling a physical product and you can't get your shopping cart to work and, send people to a group, and I see like a lot of network marketing people are doing this. They have a group for their business and they're like, hey, I've got 4 of these. You want it? Here's my PayPal. You can go pay on my PayPal, put in your address. I'll send it to you. Mm-hmm. It does not have to be complicated.
Nope.
But listen, if this is something that you're struggling with, go into the Facebook group and tell us where you're stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. We will help you prioritize things. Yes. Okay.
And tag me, Jeffrey Ingram or Kristin. Tag us. Mm-hmm. If you're afraid we won't see it. Because the problem will be so many of our group members are going to try and help you. And they might even have the right answer because they're smart. But
we have an awesome group.
We have an awesome group. So if you really want to make sure we see it, make sure to tag us in on it as well. But do that. Go to facebook.com/groups/smallbizlife.
We're trying. We're getting there. It's rough. It's snowing again in Connecticut. So it's rough. But we want to make sure that you can achieve your dreams, right? This is dream big year, okay? And it's so hard when we see so many of you that are delaying your launch or delaying making money because there's 14,000 pieces that you are trying to pull together.
Trust me, I'm the master of 14,000.
And so we want you to think, getting back to prioritizing it all, right? What are the most basic elements that you need to have in place? And no, it's not the website, the email, the perfect social media, the perfect website, the perfect emails, the perfect blog post, the perfect images on Pinterest. That's not what you need. Product and you need people. That's what you need. Product, people. And all of those other things are nice, but they're not necessary.
And once again, the perfect website might not start off as a perfect website. It might start off what Kristin was saying, that splash screen that just gets them into the email list. The shopping cart might start off as a Facebook group where you're saying, hey, I got 4 of these things. If you want one, go to my PayPal. Then maybe it goes to an Etsy store. Maybe it goes to a WooCommerce cart. Maybe you then move to Kajabi. Who knows? But the thing is, as you start getting the money in, you can sort of take that, and then you now have a budget to which you can sit there and go, I'm getting this much money a month. I can now afford a developer to help develop the WordPress site, or I can go to a more sophisticated e-commerce platform that's where it's integrated into the website. I can make those choices once I've started.
Mm-hmm. And here's a really easy sales tip for you. If you are, if you're selling stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you can do a virtual trunk show. Okay. A virtual trunk show, all it requires is a Facebook event that you go live in. And then you can say, okay, here's product number 1. Look at this. You can show it. You can hold it up, right? And these are $25. If you want this, okay, here's the link that you go to,
Mm-hmm.
and you can buy this.
Get your spouse, get your best friend, get your mom, get your sister in there to work with the feed for you.
Right.
You have the links already up front. They're going to copy and paste them into your page for you, into your group your event in this scenario.
And you can send them to PayPal. Say this is $25. Here's the link in PayPal if you want to buy this, right? Set up a very simple PayPal store.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Here's item number 1. We've got this, we have 20 of these. First 20 people, they get them. I have some people that they just say, that they just have a generic PayPal link, and you say you put in the $25 in the, in PayPal, and you tell them what item you wanted. Yep. So this is item number 2. If you say 2 and you send me $25, I'll send you this item.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have to be hard, and then you're kind of building up anticipation, you're live. People are excited, and maybe you have like 5 people show up, but if those 5 people buy,
mm-hmm.
And you spent 30 minutes, on this event.
But even so, even if, you've only sold 1 item, you have more momentum than you did if you didn't do it.
Yeah. It's funny because, one of our Small Biz HQ members, I'm not going to mention her name because I didn't ask beforehand. She created some awesome momentum in her business
mm-hmm.
this week. And it was so cool. And she said, you know what? She's like, momentum just feels awesome. And I want to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And, momentum is the greatest killer of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you build that momentum, it feels so awesome.
And sometimes even 1 sale on a lousy day will create so much momentum that it just pushes you further and further.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is like when we did the first webinar for Small Biz HQ and the technology was crashing and we're scrambling to get on Facebook Live and, we're freaking out that, oh my God, what a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
We re-recorded the video that night, went into Kajabi, and we had sales.
Yep.
And like you would have thought
we sold $1 million day.
Right, that we had $1 million day.
Because when I had my first $1 million day, I envisioned it to be very simple.
But it was just so cool to go in there and be like, wow, okay. Even though it was, we thought it was a train wreck, people thought it was awesome. And it was funny because that live call that was mm-hmm. a train wreck that we did on Facebook Live, people are still watching it. Mm-hmm. People are going in, they're joining the group and they're seeing it and they're watching it.
Well, I know it's funny too, because then, and even with some of the ones that didn't turn into sales, it was like, I got a comment from one of the people who interacts with me a lot from World Builders Anvil. Basically, I had suggested out a book, and I won't mention which one because I don't want to brag too much, but I'm like, read this book. This book will help you. This book will help you get going. Kind of not the exact same conversation we're having here, but a similar one. And he contacted me. He's like, you know what? The live webinar I saw with you and Kristin gave me a lot more than this book did.
Yeah, that was
even though
awesome.
He didn't buy anything from me, I still made his life better. And maybe at some point down the road he will. Maybe he'll only be someone who interacts at a free level, but you know what? He gives me shouts out. He interacts with me, and that helps also give momentum.
Right. So, I mean, that's, I think when we get stuck in all the things, right, we're not building momentum. We're getting too far into the minutia and we're not pushing forward.
And it's not that you're a bad person. Trust me. It's like you have all these great ideas. I get it. It's like when I had Gardul, a world that has a continent that's 18,000 square miles long. And I'm like, how can I just not get this all up there right away? Okay. It's a world. Think of getting Earth online and being able to describe Earth in a few weeks.
Right. The entire history of Earth, right, on a website in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so much. So, I know, I hope that we gave you kind of some strategies and some things to think about. This week, I want you to look at all of the stuff that's on your task list. And I want you to say, is this really necessary? Is this helping me either develop a product if you're in product development, or is this helping me get people?
And here's homework too. And if you can't find, I want you to remove one thing, at least one thing. And if you look at your task list and you can't find one thing, I'm going to ask you to go to the facebookgroup.com/groups/smallbizlife, share your task list and tag me in on it and let me see if there's something that you should remove.
Jeffrey will find some things for you to remove.
Because I guarantee you, when you say it, there's nothing to remove on my task list, it's because you have an emotional attachment to the busybody work that's preventing you from making the sales that you need.
Exactly. So go out this week, build some momentum, crush your fear. Let's get at it. See you next week.
This was Small Biz Life.